Hello everyone, I hope you're doing really well. Now, if you used Cubase before and you're already okay with creating tracks and making songs in Cubase, this probably isn't the video for you. This is more for people that have just installed Cubase or have Cubase but want to get familiar with it again, you haven't used it for a long time. What we're going to look at, I wanted to do a series of videos on if I've just installed Cubase and I want to get started, because it can be quite a daunting sort of place. I suppose any new software, learning any new software is quite a daunting task, but it doesn't have to be, because what we're going to do is break it down into short videos of how I would create a song in Cubase. Now, everyone's workflow is so different. I think that's what makes music so interesting, and using DAW so interesting, but this is how I may go about creating a project. So, first things first, I'm taking it that you've installed Cubase and you have it running. If you're having problems with the download manager or working on how you get hold of Cubase, just leave me a comment. I'll help you out. I try and get back to comments within a couple of days if I can. So I've installed Cubase. I want to create a blank project. So the first thing I would do is I've got Cubase Pro 11. So whatever version of Cubase you have brought will appear on your desktop once you've run the installer. So I'm going to click on Cubase 11. Oh, in fact, I'll tell you what I am going to do. I've got Cubase running already, so I'm going to start again from scratch, because this is how we would be. So click on Cubase. You'll get this sort of box appear, and it will run through everything. It's just initializing itself. If you're online, you'll get all of these things here, which is just useful Cubase content. All kinds of things going on down there. But what we're going to be interested in is this right-hand area. Now, if you've done a few projects before, you'll have a recents, you'll have a drop-down for that. This is other things that Cubase have put in place, or Steinberg have put in place for us as templates, but we're not going to use any of those. We're going to go for the old empty here. So scroll all the way across to this more here, click on empty, and have this on, which is prompt me for location. The reason I use that is because every new project you start, it's always nice to have it in a new folder. Otherwise, if you had, say, 10 projects in the same folder, things can get quite disorientating and things can go missing. I always find it's great to have whatever project you're working on, a new folder for it. It's just easy. And if you're collaborating with other people, of course, you can then share that folder rather than sharing the 10 tracks that you have in the same folder, which it can get confusing. So that's my rule one, would be always, if you're creating an empty track, always prompt me for location and then create the folder. Now, depending on what computer you've got running, I would go and put your folder, make a new folder wherever you want. So you've got your documents is always a good place. I've got a D drive here, so an extra drive, I'm going to put it in there. So like you would if you were making a new folder of an art package or Word or whatever, I'm going to create a new folder up here. I'm going to call this a Cubase idea. It doesn't matter what I call it. And then, sorry, my headphones are going everywhere. And then select folder. And this is what we'll get in front of us. Hopefully this is what you'll get in front of you. If you don't, leave me a comment and I'll help you out. So this is what we call the arranger window, or the arrange window. In Cubase, like many art packages, video packages or other DAWs, the information or the tracks will run from the left to the right as the song develops. These are the different areas we've got. So these are our bars going across here, and these are segments within the bars, the other lines. We can expand these out if you want to see these as a bigger, by using this little drag tool on the bottom right, or it might be worth taking a note of G and H, because that does it on the keyboard. G will minimize down and H will maximize out. Now, I'll perhaps do a little PDF sort of sheet that you can print out or you can have on your desktop so you can refer back to this, but that's the first shortcut I would use, G and H. I want to show you all of the different parts for getting started in Cubase, but what I would do at this stage, if I hadn't used Cubase before, is just press the space bar or play, that's the play button down the bottom here, and see if you've got a click. Now, I have But if you press C on the keyboard, if you haven't, so if you press spacebar and you can see this locator running, press C and your click should appear. If it doesn't, you've got an issue with Cubase and your computer sound card, or your computer sound, or your audio interface sound. And another video we'll go through what an audio interface is and things like that. But let's have a look at really quickly how we can sort of get around this issue. If you, after this sort of minute of looking at this, if you still haven't got sound, leave me a comment and I'll help you out, because there are ways around it. It's nothing straightforward when you set something up. So under Studio at the top here, say we haven't got any sound, I'd go to the top and I'd go to the menu at the top and I'd go to Studio. I'd scroll all the way down to Studio Setup, and this is giving me a bit of information about my drivers. So here's my audio system. I'm using something called Voice Meter at the moment. I wouldn't usually use that. I'd use the either internal sound or my which comes under generic sounds, and I'll show you that, or I'd use my audio interfaces. The reason I'm using Voice Meter is because I'm streaming this video and what I'm saying onto OBS, which is what I'm using to record the video. So you probably won't have Voice Meter up here. Chances are you have something called generic sound if you're on PC, and on Mac I cannot remember what it's called, but it should find it automatically. If it doesn't, can you see here on the right hand side you got ASIO driver, ASIO. This is what Cubase is using in order to stream out all of its content into audio so we can hear it convert it. So as you can see, I'm using Voice Meter, but if you've got nothing there, you might have it under a drop down where you can choose. So quite often if you're on PC, this generic sound works. I'm using sort of different interfaces on here as well. If you've got nothing there, let me know and I will help you out. There's something called ASIO for All, which is a free bit of software. It's tiny, and once we install that, it will come up here, and I'm sure that will solve the problem. But so if you haven't got audio, don't panic. We can sort it. We can get there. Okay, so we've got to the stage. We've made a new project. We've got a blank canvas in Cubase. We've got sound because we've pressed spacebar for click. We've checked the dot of click, and remember, if you want to enable the click, you press C, and you'll see the clicks there. Okay. At this stage, what I would probably consider doing is just doing a Control S for save, or I'd go to File, Save. And because we haven't saved before, it's asking me where do I want to put it, and it's in Cubase Ideas, and I'm going to call it Try. It doesn't matter what I call it at this stage. Now, by doing that, I can just do a Control S on a PC, or I forgot what it is on a Mac, but the shortcut, or File, Save. And because we've set that location, we've saved it once, it will just do it automatically for us now. Every time we press Control S or we go up to save, it won't ask us for that location. Okay, now, I think probably the best bet is to look at shortcuts. So F2 on your keyboard will bring up your transport bar. You have it down here as well. All of these do something, but we're not going into that. All we're looking at is the loop function, stop, play, and record. There's our metronome. Can you see the little old-fashioned sort of metronome? And here is our beats per minute. We're working at 120 at the moment. You can change that by scrolling up or double-clicking and changing it. But this is all we're going to look at with this. We'll look at it in more detail in the future, but it's called our transport bar, and it's simply F2 to show it and F2 to get rid of it. And the good thing about the transport bar, I think, is you can move it around to make it into a convenient place on your screen. So that's F2. F3 brings up your mixer. Now, it looks very simple at the moment because I haven't got any tracks running, but as we create more tracks, they will show up in this area here. We can add effects, we can change the EQ, but again, probably this video, we're not going to get into that. We're just purely going to look at the main functions. So F3 will bring up the mixer, F2 will bring up the transport bar, and that will save a lot of time when you're working on a project. Now, let's see if we can get some sounds out of this. So what I'd look at, if you've got a relatively modern version of Cubase, can you see you've got these things right at the very top of the screen? These are called our zones. So we've got a left zone, which will bring information here. A lower zone, which will bring information where we've got actually sub-menus here we can look at using, and I'll explain all of those. Lower zone, and then right zone. Let me just go back to media, sorry. Our right zone. So, right zone's dead handy, and lower zone will be really handy for today. Maybe let's start with creating a VST instrument. So I want to look at samples as well, how we can import samples, but I want to make a piano because I've got no sound here. Cubase isn't aware of what I want to do, what I want to create. So let's start by making a piano sound. So I'm going to go up to the top right again and go up to my right zone. And can you see here, under Media tab, I've got VST Instruments, VST Effects, Loops and Samples, which we can look at. But I want to go to this, the VST Instruments. Now, as soon as you click on this, we've got Drums, Other, and then these come with Cubase. So depending on what version of Cubase you have, you'll see these appear. We're going to look at this Halion Sonic. The reason I'm looking at this is because no matter what version of Cubase you have, you should have Halion Sonic, fingers crossed. It's literally a case of left-clicking on it and chuck it into your project. So left-click, drag it in, and you'll make a new project. A new track. Sorry, I just made that bigger by scrolling up, left-clicking on the bottom there. You get a little. I just want to make it bigger so you can see it. Okay, and this is what we have in front of us. So we've got categories and different things like that. So we're going to be looking at this, which is channel 1. And again, let's not worry about channels. It doesn't matter at all at first. You don't have to use these for quite some time. We're going to look at just channel 1. Can you see we've got a little drop down there? We can go into this menu, which basically we had there, but I want to show you in here. So we're going to use channel 1. Click on the drop down. I'm going to choose the piano, and it's already on Mellogrand, but you can scroll through them. You can use your mouse if you've got a mouse wheel to scroll up and down. I'm going to use my standard. I'm very boring. I'm going to go for Mellogrand piano. I use that for everything. Okay, so I've double clicked on it, and as you can see, it's loaded in to my track 1, my channel 1, Halion Sonic. So I've dragged that in. I've used the drop down menu, and I've gone to Mellogrand, and it's called Yellowgrand. So if I use the mouse, I can click on the keys, and we've got sound. Hopefully we've got sound. Now, if you've got a MIDI music keyboard at this point, this is where you can have your keyboard plugged in and you can start playing and you'll hear a piano. If you haven't, don't worry, because you can do Alt-K for the keyboard. So Alt-K is your next shortcut to think of. And again, I'll get this in a PDF, but Alt-K will show, and if I want to get rid of it, I can get rid of that. So with Alt-K on, I can play my actual QWERTY keyboard to create a piano. And can you see here underneath, each one of these blocks are octaves. Because you've only got a very short range, if I wanted to make this go up or go down on the keyboard, you can using that. Okay, so that's our keyboard. We can use the piano roll as well, but I'm not sure if we're going to get onto piano roll today. I think we might run out of time. So we've made a piano. I can now get rid of my right zone just to make the screen look a bit tidier. So I click on the right zone and he's gone. Now, what I am going to use is now the lower zone to choose 4 chords. All I want are 4 simple chords, and then we'll perhaps look at using a sample today. And then in the next lesson, we can look at perhaps more advanced things we can do. So I don't know what style I want to write in. All I know is I want a chord sequence. So I'm going to go to this lower zone, which I'm going to use this at the top right again. And depending on what you're on here, sample controller is for a sampler, which is wicked, really cool. Editor will work depending on whatever we're editing, which we haven't got anything to edit at the moment. The mix console, we know we've looked at that before by pressing F3 on the keyboard. But you've also got it here if you want to run it as the project's playing. This is what we're going to use though. Click on chord pads. And now, because you see we've got Halion Sonic highlighted here, I've clicked on this, left clicked on this Halion Sonic. I can click on any of these pads and I can literally drag them up onto this, anywhere in this track. So it has to be along the line of this piano track here, so this Hallion Sonic, and it will create the chord for me. Now, you can create different chords and extended chords and different inversions, but again, we're not worrying about that at the moment. We just want 4 basic chords. And although this is great, and we can also use this preset button here if you want to change the key rather than being C major, I prefer probably to use this thing called the circle of fifths, which is, can you see it's like a speech bubble here? Sorry, I'll just click off that. I didn't explain that very well. Just above the presets, which you can use, and we'll look at that. But just for speed today, I'm going to use this thing called the circle of fifths, which it looks like a kind of a speech bubble there. And because we've still got Hallion Sonic highlighted, we're still on this track. Can you see in the key of C, can you see all of these? These are all close together. They're good mates with each other. They like each other all this long. Now, these aren't so keen on each other. As you get further away, they're not so matey with each other. These ones are the ones that sort of hang out a lot. These are related to each other. Now, that's great. And we've got the Roman numeral. So if someone says, I want you to write a 1-4-5 chord progression, you might think, well, I'm not sure what that means. This circle of fifths, which we got from just here, will tell you 1-4-5, which is great, but we're in C major. I want to work in, let's choose something at random, E minor. So I want to be in a minor key. I'm in a bit of a more of a sad mood with it. So I'm going to highlight E minor. I'm going to right click. Well, you don't even have to highlight it. You can literally right click over it, sorry. So I'm in E minor. I'm going to right click and I'm going to go assign to pad and use as origin. And you should see it all spin round. And now, here's my center. So I've got 1, chord 5, chord 4, chord 3. And again, all of these in this triangle here, they all like each other quite a lot. So they should all work together. Now, we're going to put that to the test. You can move this anywhere to bring it closer if you want, so you can there's less distance to drag. But I'm literally going to drag in 4 chords, but I'm only going to choose from this triangle, and I'm hoping it's not going to sound too bad. If it does, it doesn't matter, because that's the beauty of using a DAW or Cubase, the fact that you can alter these as you go. So I've drawn in 4 chords. Let's hope they sound all right. We'll see. So first of all, I'm going to click off there by the red click. I'm going to get rid of my lower zone a minute. And the first thing you'll notice, can you see I haven't started at the start of the bar? So I'm literally going to just left click on them and drag them all. Oh, not very good at dragging. There we go. And we're back at the beginning. If you want to move this locator around, can you see you've got the ruler at the top, this dark area here? Literally just left click, take it back to the beginning, and then press space bar. That sounds okay, doesn't it? But if you did think, oh, not too keen on C, let's move it to the right a minute and just drop it over there. Let's try E minor. Okay, I'm going to get rid of C and I'm going to copy E minor again, because what I want to show you is how you can copy and duplicate in Cubase. Now, because I've clicked on any one of these, this is called an event, and you can highlight it by left clicking. And if I do Control D, it stands for duplicate, and it'll copy it across. Now, this one's so duplicate, Control D. You can just use the normal copy and paste function as well in Cubase. That works just as if you were using Word or any other package. But for speed, Control D will take the event and just copy it next to it. Now, you might want the E minor at bar 6. This is where it gets interesting, because you can actually left click on the audio event, drag it all the way over to bar 6, don't let go of left click, press Alt, then let go of left click. and that's a way of copying a MIDI event, audio event, anything to a different location. So rather than Control D, which will take it next door, then I'd have to drag it to bar 6. You could literally, if you wanted this at your end chorus, left click on it, drag it wherever it is, press Alt, then let go of left click. So left click, still with left click down, drag it wherever you want, then let go of left click. Okay, but I don't want that. I'm just going to go Control D, and so I've gone B minor, G, E minor, E minor. Can you see it shows you at the top what the chord is? I'm going to press C to get rid of that click. I've got 4 chords. Now I want to experiment using a loop. All I'm going to do is use my locator tool at the top here. See, you've got this ruler. I'm going to left click. Can you see as soon as you... This might take a little bit of time to get used to it, but it's not too bad. If you just move your mouse up onto this ruler at the top, a pen will appear. Can you see a pen's appeared for me? I can left click. I'm going to drag that all the way from where I want the loop to start and where I want the loop to finish. And now if I put loop on, which is here, it should repeat round. Sorry, I didn't repeat the first chord there. It will do this time. I think I'll freak the computer out a bit. There we go. Now if you want to do that quickly, again, I don't want to get too bogged down with shortcuts. We can use something called the lasso, where we can click anywhere off the audio event, just left click, keep left click down and highlight all of the information. So that's, you can left click anywhere off the information, keep left click down, highlight them all, and you can use the shortcut P. P's quite a good one. And you see how that set it up for me automatically. But honestly, there's a lot of shortcuts I'm going through. At the moment, just remember you can go up to the top ruler, locator ruler, and you can literally choose where you want the loop to start and finish. Really quickly, the last thing we're going to do today in this video is look at how we could perhaps put a drum beat into this, or some kind of beat to go over the top of my chords. So I'm going to go up to Media, and I'm going to go to Media Bay. And can you see by going up to this top menu into Media Bay, you've got the shortcut F5. Cubase is quite cool because it will tell you the main shortcut. So I could just press F5 on the keyboard, but I haven't. I've gone up to the top media, gone to Media Bay, and I put it on all media because we can choose. This is much like finding any file in any bit of software, but I'm searching all my media on my computer, and I'm just going to type in, let me type in drum and let's see what happens. You can see these are kind of different things appear here. You can have presets, we can have audio loops, which look like, I suppose WAV files would know that as an MP3. It's sort of like a wave, and we've got MIDI information. MIDI looks like this. So again, we'll look at this in more detail, but I want to use loops. I'm on all, because I've typed drum in up here in my search. So at the moment, this is everything that's on my computer. But simply by clicking up here on this white area, I can type drum, and it will narrow it down to drums for me. If you want to be more specific and you don't want all these presets and these different types of tracks, you can actually use this all media and just click on audio if we're only looking for audio, and then it will show just the audio. But if you wanted to show just the MIDI, obviously you can click on just the MIDI. So at the moment we've just got audio. Now what have I got on here that might work? Here we go. I'm going to click on this well, not the first one, but something here called trap. Oh, that might be a bit loud. Let me just change the volume. Okay, that kind of works. Well, I'm not sure it's going to work. It's drums. It's drums. Let's leave it at that. Okay, now before I drag this into my project or double click on it to get it to appear in my project, the one thing you want to look at using at these are really useful, because can you see this here? One with it's got like a crotchet sort of symbol on it, a music note. If you click on there, it says align beats to project. That's the one we want. they're all relatively useful in their own ways, but this is the one I'm going to concentrate on today. What that's going to do, if someone wrote that loop in 160 beats per minute, that's great, but when I drag it into my project or I double click on it, it'll be stuck to 160. But by having this align beats to project, Cubase will work out how to make that 120 beats per minute, so when it goes into my project, it's going to be in the same time. And you can audition it by pressing play there. You've got stop and you've got pause. Now, I could double click on that and it will appear in my project, or I can left click on it and choose where it goes, which is quite nice as well. So I'm going to left click, I'm going to put it to the beginning of those 4 chords, and there it goes. And now hopefully this will sound wicked. I'm not sure about that. Okay, straight away, it works, it's in time. It's too loud, the drums are too loud. Because I'm on this, I've highlighted it. Can you see how on this is when the left zone comes into play? I can literally, the volume here, bring down the volume. Let's try now. Maybe a little bit more. And we've got the start of a composition. And although I've used piano and drums, what we're going to look at next is how we can add in other synths, how we can make lead lines, how we can add effects, how we can program using the drum editor. There's so many other little things we can do, but by working like this, we can do it in steps, so we can do it in a sort of more controlled fashion, I suppose. Now, one thing I'm going to show you before we leave it is it's called Trap Drum. If I wanted to change the name of that, you can actually just double click there and you can type in whatever you want and it will rename it. Or the other thing I find really useful, which a lot of people don't use, and I don't always use it, but it is worth getting into the habit. Can you see at the top here, you've got this sort of artist palette. It looks like an artist palette there. If we click on the drop down, whatever you've highlighted, so at the moment we've got this trap drum loop, I can click on any of these colours and you can see now it's purple. So it makes it easily it's more easy to find if you're in a rush. All composers as well, if you ask film composers or different composers, will have colours for different instruments. They'll always say, like, oh no, drums have got to be green. I always think guitars are red, but I don't think there's any logic why that would be. But okay, so I hope that helps. What I'm going to do is try and get a PDF sheet together and I'll put it in the comments within the next week. We'll go on to the next video. We'll look at probably some more advanced features. But if you get stuck with any of this, just leave me a comment and I will get back to you on it. Okay, good luck.